Why does sound have to come from behind the speakers? This question comes from Scott in Belmore, New York. Hey, Paul, you once mentioned, probably more than once, that in order to maximize the listening experience, the soundstage should be holographic and appear to come from behind the loudspeakers. That is, as if the musicians were playing in the space behind the speaker setup. However, if I was listening to music with my eyes closed, why would this matter? How would I even determine if the sound was behind the speakers with closed eyes? Could a holographic image be generated if the sound was more forward and in front of the speakers? Thanks. Well, Scott, that's a good question. I have certainly heard systems that image forward of the loudspeaker. They don't typically extend very far forward, and I think it's basically wrong. And we've talked about this, oh gosh, quite a few times. And as people know, I definitely am an evangelist for holographic imaging. Give you an example. When we were designing, Darren and I were designing the AN series, these prototypes, we struggled and struggled and struggled to get the sound out of the speaker, out of the driver. The mid-range in particular we struggled with. And when we sat back here and listened, you know, the highs were back here as they should be, the lows, but the mid-range was right up here in the front. And we kept fooling with the crossover until finally we got the sound divorced from the cabinets, as it should be, because no sound should come from the speakers. It should be holographic and back behind here. Now, one of his questions was, if the lights are off or my eyes are closed, how the hell would I judge where it is relative to the speakers? Well, I think when you're sitting there, let's just imagine you're gonna start with the lights on and you hit your thing and you start playing, right? And the sound comes from where it should. It should come from way back here. And if it has a lot of depth, it's way far back. And it's holographic, it's three-dimensional. That's the way it should be. That's, you know, I've talked a lot before about speakers being analogs of microphones, right? If the microphones were pointed this way and recording something, then when you play it back, it's just the microphone turned around. Now we call them speakers. You play it, it should reproduce accurately the sound from back here. But I won't go into that too much at this point. I have no trouble sitting in my listening chair and turning the lights off, closing my eyes and listening, and I know the sound is coming from behind the speakers because I can hear the distance from where I am, right? I mean, the distance between the front of the speaker and the listening position is whatever it is, 7 feet, 8 feet. And the distance back here is another 3 or 4 feet. As I sit in my chair, I can tell distance of something. I can tell that a person is that far back as opposed to this far back. I mean, it's just part of our natural hearing thing. So while I can't use these to judge positioning, I can tell that it's coming from the end of the room, which basically is where it should be coming from. So I don't think that's an issue. I think that maybe is more of a logical, like, hey, how do we do that? As opposed to sitting here listening to it actually happen. But you definitely don't want the sound coming out in front. And to the extent that you have that, you got it wrong. And to get it right, well, you need the right speakers, you need the right electronics, and you need the right setup. And we'll go through this more and more as time goes on. But you really do want to make sure that the sound is holographic coming from behind the loudspeakers. I know that's a tough concept for some people. I get it. That's why I'm spending my Saturday afternoon down here talking to you. Just so you can maybe get a new idea and learn something a little new. And if you ever do have a chance to come, you want to hear the ANs, you want to hear the IRS 5s, whatever we got going at the time, you would be most welcome and highly encouraged to do so. Boulder's a gorgeous place, especially now in the spring. I mean, I got to tell you, this place is killer. So come on down. We'll demonstrate to you, and you can go, holy crap. I heard him babbling on about it, but I never knew that it actually is completely divorced from the speakers. That's interesting. And it's not just the ANs, it's every speaker that we set up has that same effect, that at least the stuff we play with. Okay, thanks, and I hope that answered your question. I will talk to you tomorrow.